That's really good. One's wanted, one unwanted. What's the similarity? I would just say neither exist. There's no such thing as these. They don't have a classification of a vegetable. They don't have a classification of a weed.
So that was made up by the Food and Drug Administration.
I don't know who it was made up, but it's not real. It's in the Bible though, so obviously somebody sees a difference, but there's no difference. So I say they don't exist. You have to look at plants, and I'm gonna give you the classification that will make your life easier in gardening if you drop all this stuff.
This video is part of a lecture series on simplifying gardening. Some in my town were a bit incredulous to claims of near 100% germination in less than 48 hours in Florida summer. Actually, in certain cases, I get germination in just 24 hours. So I brought them out, showed them the way I think about gardening and the way I do things. I let them make their own soil blocks, weed, feed, seed, and water right there with me. We talked on Friday, seeded on Saturday. Come Monday morning, they were wanting their starts, their proof. Now, their friends and family are insisting I hold another workshop. But we filmed it, so anyone interested in my channel can see what is really dirt simple.
Well, the good thing is that I know all of you, so that's gonna make it easy. But what you might not know is my background. I have only 3 types of clothes. I got gardening clothes, soccer clothes, and church clothes. I don't know what I'm wearing today. Church clothes, probably.
Yeah, probably church clothes.
But I came from the computer industry, actually, this was years ago, and moved into science, and my study is limit cycles, and this all applies to gardening. All right, so, how good are you at math? You know 2 plus 2?
4.
All right, on the right track. We do have a math teacher here. We do have a math teacher here.
5th grade.
5th grade, okay. So we got a variety of ages here, so it's gonna be perfect. Limit cycles. This is really advanced stuff, but it is my fascination. And so basically, there's many different types, but this is the complex plane. You know complex arithmetic?
What?
Complex arithmetic?
No.
Okay, so basically where everything is a point, like Cartesian coordinates, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let me do this here, it's not very good. And so you have x, y, axis, but in this way it would be real and imaginary. And not imaginary, all numbers are imaginary. I'm gonna make this quick. The limit cycle is just like Cartesian coordinates, but you have one cycle that spirals into another as time equals infinity. Okay, so let me just kind of draw an example of one. With mine, I always start right here. The curve I'm interested in is this. It kind of looks like this. Jeffrey knows what this is, and it eventually kind of reaches this. This is a general equation I have for all life forms, including plants and gardening, fish, people, the human brain, everything. Animals can be defined based on the first year. So if this is time, each spiral is 1 year. So it starts here, when it crosses this line, it's 1 year. So right there, 1 year, 2 years. All right, make sense? Simple enough? Kind of. So if I know the height, let's say fish, because that's what I first came to. If I know the length of the fish at year 1, and I know when he's mature, let's just say year 3, let's just say 2.5, 2.25, make it simple. All right, when this comes here, if I know this number and this number, I can calculate how big it's gonna get. And there is to date no equation that actually shows the growth of any humans or anything. Where's most paper towel? Oh, I got it. So this point, why does it matter? Because it asks the question, how much food do we need in the world to sustain humans? Yeah, but how much food do we need to feed everybody in the world? So see, that's the thing. So there's a linear system and there's a non-linear system, okay? Linear system would be, let's just say the fish, okay? And he's got basically 3 functions, all right? He's got 3 functions: eat, swim, and make baby fishes. That's pretty much all he does. Actually, with just 1 fish, he's not making any new baby fishes, but we got 2, and that's all they do. But we have a function here and a function here, and as we start to get more, and they're all constantly growing, you see it's very complicated. And then you introduce another fish who's going to come and eat this fish. Then you got to consider how much fish food does he need to eat, and this one on average, and how much does he eat, and it gets really, really complicated. And I came up with an equation, which is why Jeffrey and I are working on the app. Let's take all those functions, and it goes, so it's kind of like, Marguerite.
Yeah.
Look like.
What?
What's that look like? Ever seen that before?
No.
Polynomial, right?
Yeah.
So if you have some coefficients right there, and C, so on and so forth, you get you can start to work with nonlinear systems. If each one of these is a function of a fish, one fish that eats the next fish, that eats the next fish, all the way down to plankton and bacteria, you can actually calculate how much food you need in that given system. Yes, Brantley?
Is this multiplication advanced though?
Yeah, it's pretty advanced stuff.
Really advanced, and then you put the fisherman into the equation.
Yes,
Because
that's the
where
thing. That's
you
what we're
put
concerned
Mr.
about.
Sheets. You
Is
put
how much
Mr.
can we eat?
Sheets in there.
Right.
Yeah.
So it
he's
gets
a damn
really
fisherman.
complicated. And everything's growing, everything's moving. That is why gardening is hard. Farming is hard. That's why not everyone is doing it. It's hard physically. It's hard when you get attacked by fire ants. It's just, it isn't easier ways to garden. So let's kind of just talk really quick, go through this, I'll do one I shortened. That's basically the way I see it. When I look at garden, I'm thinking, okay, the seasons are constantly changing, the temperature's changing, the sun is at a different angle at all times. How do I simplify it? And, well, there's lots of different ways. So I'm gonna go over it. In Florida, gardening is very hard. It's very hard. I came from Ohio. It's easy. You do nothing. It's just put it in the ground, it grows. Here it grows, but so do the bugs and all of the weeds and everything else. All right, so gardening versus farming. There was, your husband was former in landscaping, am I right? Was it your husband?
It was, yeah.
Nice. It's unfortunate he's here because I had so many things I wanted to ask him. It's such a
Yeah.
bummer. All right, so
I will try to get him there.
that's okay. The difference between gardening and farming, is there a difference?
I just think of the quantity.
It's kind of where I would go.
Because
Yeah.
farming, I think you have acres upon acres versus a garden can be any size.
Yeah. I think the way I probably would do it is there's gardening.
And maybe you think of gardening being more manual, right, than, you don't.
Yeah,
So
well-
Brantley, if you garden, you're kind of doing it with your hands versus farming, you probably think of all the big equipment the farmer uses.
But I think this is probably what most people do at home for their own food.
Yeah, hobby.
This,
You're
you
right.
might go to sell at the farmer's market,
Mhm.
and farming, it's major investment, which is why they have equipment, right? So it's got to make it easier. You're going to farm for profit, then you can count, well, I need a $200,000, tractor or something or other. All right, so this is what we're going to do, and talk about, not the market gardening, but all of the same, they're all systems. So farming is usually one crop as well. I like to think it's not always, but it's like I'm a corn farmer, I'm a soybean farmer, and so on and so forth. Like I said, it's a really gray area on the definitions, but I'm interested only in the gardening and show you guys just the gardening, no selling at all. The way I see it, it's ideally a semi-stable system, right? So these limit cycles, there's 3 different types. There's stable, there's semi-stable, and there's unstable. When people say they can't garden, it's because it's unstable. What is an example maybe of a stable limit cycle? There was an island, I was just talking with Jeffrey about this. An island, let's see if I can draw the state of Michigan.
I was gonna say, you mentioned Ohio earlier.
Yeah. All right. So we got
Yeah.
you got this. Here's the UP Upper Peninsula, and then take a 6-hour ferry boat. There's this island called Isle Royale, and on this island they have a very nice balance between moose and wolves. They're very beautiful. It's like a mile across and like 50 miles long, and they came from across, I don't know, the lake when the moose swam. The wolves walked across the ice when it froze. Anyway, if the moose overpopulate, the wolves increase. If the wolves die off, or no, if the moose die off, the wolves are gone. So there's this constant balance, but it works out over time. There's, as long as it's not interfered with, it's going. So that would be a stable limit cycle. Yes, Brantley?
Like the food chain, but with only
Yes.
two. The moose eat the plants and the
Yeah.
weeds to keep the plants ants
Mhm.
from getting too big. The wolves keep the mooses from overpopulating,
Yes.
and the wolves are just there to keep going.
I'm so glad you're here. You're a smart kid. The ocean is another example. The world is a bigger example, okay? So it is stable. Why and how to incorporate this in your backyard is why it becomes difficult. All right, but it is possible. I kind of go for semi-stable. That's good enough for me. All right, so that is what I see as a garden. You don't need to see it that way, but things become easier if you're always looking at it in this way. What's eating what and why and when. All right, so let's just get a simple, why garden at all? This is your answers. This one's not working, I'm used red. Why garden at all? It's hard.
So you're
We like to get bit by fire ants.
Self-sufficient.
Self-sufficiency, is that even possible though? Right? I mean, can you go without toilet paper?
In the old days, they did.
I know, you could. So yeah, you could.
Yeah, you could.
What else could we go without if we're just farming? We could trade, you know.
You could trade for the meat and that
Yeah,
kind of stuff.
I traded with my neighbor for eggs, fish, and things
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to raise chickens, but I love eggs.
Mhm.
All right, what else? What other reason? Would we garden?
What garden?
Why garden?
Oh, why garden?
Yeah.
The pleasure of seeing things grow.
Yeah, it is very rewarding. It is. Especially for me, because my garden's out front, and I have people just randomly stop by, all sorts of people, you know, kids, older people, just stop by and go, Dad, it's awesome. You know, really, when it's in bloom, not right now in the summer. But yeah, it's very rewarding. When you get to put something in seed and you see it turn into this amazing crop, it's really neat. It's fascinating. Yeah, Jeffrey,
It
what
was,
up?
it was like what you said, like people garden maybe to make their yard look better too.
Yeah.
I
You can
think
design
there's
your
an
own
argument
nature.
If it's cheaper. I think the verdict's out if it's cheaper.
Yeah,
It's definitely
you're saving-
healthier.
Yeah, some people say it's like printing your own money.
Yeah.
It's really it. There's the garden. I wish I knew. And if I put this on YouTube, I hope somebody leaves a comment because I lost his channel. I was following. It would always pop up, but I didn't subscribe, and now I can't find it. The guy, he lives somewhere here on the coast, you know, and his thing is it's like printing your own money. All right, that's what it is. I mean, you go and you can buy a $3 cucumber, or you can grow it for fractions of pennies. Because water bill, I got water going on and on and on. My wife's like, don't do that. I got the bill, the most I've ever seen the bill is $600, $70. And that's only like $20 different if I don't do the gardening. It's really, at least here, I don't know about California, Arizona, water's cheap. I mean, it's all over. It's under the ground. Yes, what else might we garden for? Printing money.
Sharing.
Yeah, so you can definitely give. I like that. I take,
And also,
so, yeah, I'm not here, but I didn't know my neighbors when I first moved in here. I go take them bags and bags of cucumbers every couple of days, you know. It's, there's charity for purpose, but it also, there's this other, if you give it away, it gives, it's comes from Curtis Stone, which is, I'm gonna give some names of people where I learned a lot of social credit. All right, because you got, if a zombie apocalypse occurs, you got somebody else is gonna look out for you now. Hey, this guy's always bringing me cucumber. So there's for two reasons really to kind of go, and giving it away serves two different purposes when it comes to farming. This guy, he says he can't grow. I can't grow, a weed. So this helps, you know what I mean? And I don't need anything in return, but I'm just always giving it to different people. Anything else? Because the next one's even more interesting.
Well, the thing is, when you have a sufficient amount of growth, then you can can it for the future
Yeah.
and have things out of season, fresh from your canning.
You mentioned something that is really important. There's been a lot of studies about the benefits of eating food from your own area, health benefits, and eating in season. So I like to eat cucumbers year round, but they really say there's something significant about eating food from your own area. Like you've noticed that, probably heard that, but
Yeah.
it's the same thing with food. All those bacteria are in the ground, and we need them to get in there. So eating the food from your own area is extremely healthy. And let's just do this. Even if somebody wants to argue that, I get some people who are very healthy. I'm physically fit, and I work out 20 to 30 minutes every day without fail. I work out about 4 hours every day, sweating and hauling and working in the garden, okay? So I'm not saying I'm healthy, but I need it, So I need it to stay even somewhat healthy. So it's very healthy to garden. My wife's grandmother garden and slaughter her own pigs till well into her 90s. No one wants me on a sports team at my age, so I gotta garden instead. Okay, so if those are the reasons why we might garden, who should garden?
Everyone.
Everyone, I would agree too. Everyone that has the time to. When I worked full-time,
You better make time for your health, but I would put a caveat.
Yeah,
Everyone able.
that's.
My son David can't do it.
Right.
And if you get out of heart surgery, I wouldn't recommend it. Give it a little time. All right. So everyone able is the way I would say. Should rich people? They don't need to save money. Should rich people?
Helps her health and.
No, but
It's
they
for their
don't
health, their
garden.
exercise. Yeah.
They tend to be more involved with gardening than food because they don't have a price difference in food, so they like to put special flowers in and plants and things like that.
I had a business coach that I'm discussing maybe with the app and everything, and he's like, set the amount of money that you need so that you don't need to do the stuff so you can pay other people to do it. And I'm like, I need to do it for my health, but that it may be something that then it's more of a pastime. Then I really only need maybe 20 minutes, if you can pay somebody. But should a president, a king, queen, these type of people garden? Is there any benefit to them for it?
Yeah, they get them.
They get what?
They get them.
Yeah, I think so. I think everyone able. They're gonna get some benefits. It's gonna be peaceful, calming of the mind. There's many ways to look at health. The soul, just relaxes when you're in the garden. My daughter, she won't eat any vegetables. She goes to the garden, she eats everything. It's different. There's something about being in the garden. She'll eat anything if it's in the garden. On her plate, right? So, if the king has, kids, right? So I think everyone that's able, that is the way I see it. And no one does. Why don't they? Because it's hard. It is hard. All right. So that's why so many people try to make it easier. And there are a lot of innovations just in the past 50 years. Amazing. All right. So what I'm going to show you for the remainder comes from a couple people. I'm going to write their names, but I'm afraid they're spelling. So feel free to look them up. Many of these guys disagree with each other. I'm kind of using elements of both, actually. So neither of them are wrong. I've heard the arguments. It's ridiculous. I use both at the same time. This is the guy that everyone's really... He's in Canada. This guy, let's see if I can say it. Goatsy.
Goatse.
You know him?
No, I know how
Gautzsch.
No.
He was from California and moved, I think, Oregon. Okay, I think the reason people give him a lot of credit is because he's always, rambling off scripture. He believes that he found his methods from God, and it's incredible. It's incredible what he found. So whatever the reason, whatever his inspiration, because other people are complaining about him. Another guy is. This guy used to have his own TV show. I don't know, Lawn and Garden Channel, whatever it is. Yeah, so his is very similar. And this gentleman, so he lives in Maine. I don't even know if he's still alive. I think he is though. He's all these guys are. And this guy, he came from the same background as your husband, landscaping. So his garden is all about beauty. All right. I don't know if I spelled these names right. He's down in Newport Richey, and I've seen his garden in person, but he wasn't there. So I knocked on the door, walked
You
up.
stop by it like.
Oh, yeah, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna see it. I think those are the main. Oh, and there's one other guy. This guy. He used to work for the government. I don't know what happened, but he became disabled to some extent. He, how do you say it? Does microgreens. So I learned all the seeding techniques from him. He does his gardening in his apartment. So, hold on. He lives in Baltimore, Maryland. All right, those are really the 5 guys that I learned from. And so there's so many videos criticizing his method, and so on and so forth. So I'm gonna go show all of the methods, which is basically what I'm implementing in the yard. It's a mixture of hydroponics, which we'll get into, which is all of him. But then I put, that's for the seeds. It's interesting. It's a kind of a hybrid between regular gardening. It's really just flooding my plants, and that's how I get them through the summer. All right, and it's not Tim, it's Jim. He's in the winter. He does only in Florida. He's in Florida and he goes up to Maine. So that's how he knows him. His methods are very similar, but he's had to adapt it to Florida. He only does the winter. I can't do the stuff he does in the winter here. It freezes. We get the frost. He sometimes gets frost, but nothing else. So these are the 3 guys, and I do have a YouTube channel, and I'm trying to put a video up every week. It's just starting. It's called The Forgotten Coast. Now I'll show the methods. If I had time to do a PowerPoint, I'd show you pictures, but you don't need to because you're going to see tomorrow. Although, only thing I have in the garden right now are peppers, watermelon, and sweet potatoes.
And potatoes,
Sweet potatoes.
sweet potatoes.
Mm-hmm. That's all, and it's only for a cover in the front. So I have 2 gardens. Here's my house. In the back is my laboratory, and I don't put it in the front until I've mastered it out here. So I have all sorts of weird stuff going on there. Try different times of the year. I tried eggplants, which my last videos, they all get eaten by blister beetles and so on and so forth. So everything's back there. If I go, that really works good, then I do a nice 50-foot bed out in the front.
Now, is that the only garden you put in, is that 50-foot depth?
No, I
Other than that, so you waited.
yeah, I eat quite a lot from here. So I garden mainly, I'm mainly doing it, that little garden would be everything for me. Out here is an experiment a different way. In order to work on the app, I need to understand, traditional 50-foot bed, gardening in a larger scale. So kind of, I'll plant like, I don't know, like tomorrow you'll see 200 okra plants going in the ground. I don't need 200 okra plants, okay? But that's somebody farming. We'll get into what crops to do. Okay, so good. All right. So there's 4 things that you need to know really to grow anything. And fortunately, the first 3 rhyme. So it's easy to remember. If you master these, then you can grow no problem. But you saw how tricky this one is because of the whole limit cycle, right? The feeding. All right, weeding, seeding, feeding, and water. That's it.
R at the end, yeah.
What is? I was writing upside down this one. Oh boy, and my handwriting
And
is
if
a
you don't
lot.
like to weed, I don't like to weed. Do you like to weed, Marguerite?
Everyone loves to weed. What are you talking about? All right, so that's the first thing I want to talk about. Yeah.
When they get big, I don't mind weeding them.
That's
but
some of the
they're
first
not
thing we talk about with the
Okay.
weeding, because it could be whether you're going to be in a hospital or whether you're actually enjoying it. There's a
Okay.
there's a way to do it. Most people don't know how to weed properly, and I'm going to show you right
That
here.
may be what
It's
I don't
it'll make it. I still don't like it, but I can do it for hours. Okay, I can do it for a long time
Okay.
because it's not hurt. It won't hurt anything. It won't hurt your body, and you won't have to get on the ground with the ants and everything. Let's do this. I don't have different colors, but let's just say this is an apple and this is an orange. What is the single greatest common denominator between an apple and orange? This is an IQ question, actually. They claim there's only one answer. Let's see who the smartest person in here is.
You can't just bite into you can bite into an apple, but you can't bite into an orange. But under an orange, you can eat.
That's
the
different.
golden.
Yeah,
That's
that's the
different.
difference.
We're looking for
That's
what's
thing.
most the same about them. Yes, Jeffrey.
I mean, they're both fruits.
You know this one already.
No, I don't.
That is the answer. They
Yeah,
are
they're
both fruits. Yes,
Yeah.
that is the answer. It's not mine, but I do understand it. Okay,
And
so
they
we gotta
count
look at
for
a
your
way
fruits.
to categorize things. If we're gonna grow them, if we know how to feed them, we have to know what it is, because plants will eat different things. All right, so you have to understand what it is, and I'm gonna play a little game here. All right, what's the difference between a vegetable and a weed? This is the difference now. The greatest difference between a vegetable and a weed.
Oh, so you can't, the weeds, you can't eat very well, and vegetables are more nutritious for us, our
I
body.
eat personally out of my garden all the time. It's a weed. I eat personally out of my garden all the time. It's a weed. Dandelions.
That, oh, dandelions it too.
There's also another thing.
Yeah.
A vegetable is something that you want in your area, you want there, you don't want it to go. But a weed is something that if you don't take care of, it'll keep growing. It's like an invasive species,
Yeah.
but of plants.
That's really good. One's wanted, one unwanted.
Mhm.
What's the similarity? Greatest similarity of the two.
They both can grow on their own, but with a little bit of water and the natural resources given to them, and they're also both plants.
I would say neither exist. There's no such thing as these. There's no classification at all. It's something people just made up. It's stuff made up. There's
Oh, I
nothing.
see,
They
it's a
don't exist.
classification, like
But it's not even a
vegetable,
classification.
right. It's-
What do they call them? Botanists. They don't have a classification of a vegetable. They don't have a classification of a weed.
So that was made up by the Food and Drug Administration.
I don't know who was
Yeah.
made up, but it's not real. It's in the Bible though, so obviously somebody sees a difference,
Yeah.
but there's no difference. So I say they don't exist. Exist is a tomato, a fruit, or a vegetable.
That's the one that's bipolar.
But vegetables don't exist.
Got it.
Fruits do exist because apples and oranges are both fruits.
Well,
And they have a definition. Botanists know what a fruit is.
isn't that interesting?
They don't know what a vegetable is.
Ah.
So a tomato, is it a vegetable or a fruit?
Hmm,
All right, depends who you ask.
yeah. it
All
depends,
right.
yes,
A
yeah.
nutritionist will say it is not because it doesn't contain fructose. But
Oh,
other
it's not a
nutrition,
fruit.
but
Okay.
dietitians, actually they even argue, they will say that an avocado is a fruit. Avocado is a fruit.
Yeah,
But
avocado's
it
another
doesn't have
one
the
that.
fructose either.
Yeah.
Olives, are they a fruit or a vegetable? They don't have fructose. So it depends on who you ask. In other words, it's stuff made up. Nobody find it that way. You have to look at plants, and I'm gonna give you the classification that will make your life easier in gardening if you drop all this stuff.
Plenty room on this beach for visitors. I hope this video helped. I got another coming, so like and subscribe to catch next week. Before I go, I want to share something with you. I know firsthand the frustration that comes with spreadsheet garden planning and unreliable apps. That's why my son and I created the Garden Optimizer. It's a super simple tool with just 4 pages and accessible with 4 buttons. One page is your garden parameters, a second is for your climate parameters, and a third is for your crop definitions. But the real magic happens on the garden page. We took every measure to make the design of this page slicker and more convenient than any garden app out there. You can click on any given day of the year and the AI will show you what you should have in the ground and at what spacing. You can choose to plant in rows or staggered for the best profits or the laziest, lowest maintenance garden. And if you're late at any given task, just click a button to re-optimize and the AI will reroute your plan. But we want your feedback before release. To get involved, pause this video and go to gardenoptimizer.com. That's www.gardenoptimizer.com. Sign up for our newsletter and we'll contact you shortly. Until then, man up and grow.